Hello, welcome to the Bella, Infidelity Stories channel, where we present authentic tales filled with surprising turns. If you appreciate the video, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. It truly supports the growth of our channel. Now, let's embark on the journey of the narrative. I suppose I ought to begin by mentioning that I'm not precisely the type of person who leads an extraordinary life. At 28, I'm navigating the daily grind of a regular job, managing my bills, and simply trying to make sense of it all, you know. Nothing extravagant, no intense conflicts, just a man going about his life. When I spend time with others, it tends to be relaxed, just friends and acquaintances, nothing overly intense. Denny is someone I've known for quite some time. Our friendship has blossomed over the past few years. While I wouldn't label us as best friends, there's definitely a connection that goes beyond mere acquaintanceship. There's a positive energy here, don't you think? We get together from time to time, perhaps enjoy a beer after work, discussing sports or whatever's happening in the moment. I'm quite familiar with his mom, Camila, as well. She has consistently been incredibly kind, approachable, and relatable. Camila is in her mid-40s, yet she carries herself and appears in a way that defies her age. She possesses that timeless quality, always radiating a youthful spirit, if that resonates. So, there I was at Denny's place one afternoon, and he wasn't around. I thought I would wait for him and perhaps enjoy a drink, but instead, Camila showed up. I've visited their home countless times, so it felt completely normal. She beckoned me to take a seat and share a coffee with her, and I obliged. It was nothing particularly remarkable. A few individuals engaged in a conversation about the nuances of existence. In that instant, I was completely unaware that this exchange would ultimately transform everything. During our conversation, she mentioned her relationship with her husband. I truly didn't see that coming. Camila began to share her experiences regarding the ongoing challenges in her marriage that had persisted for years. How they had been facing significant challenges. It seemed that circumstances had deteriorated to such an extent that she found herself at a critical juncture. She shared with me that her husband no longer valued her, and they had reached a point where effective communication seemed impossible. Honestly, I was taken aback. I had never considered her relationship from that perspective. Camila always appeared so serene, so optimistic, as if everything was perfectly all right. I found myself in an unexpected dialogue, yet I remained attentive. It appeared that she had something weighing on her mind that she needed to express. It all seemed rather weighty, wouldn't you agree? I was at a loss for words. What can you possibly say to someone on the brink of surrendering their marriage? This is not an issue that can be easily dismissed. In an effort to brighten the atmosphere, I spontaneously decided to share a joke. I remarked, "Truly, Camila, you're just too young for him. There's definitely room for improvement. Your husband seems to be quite a bit older than you." That comment was quite foolish, to be honest. I didn't intend any harm, it was merely a jest. I believed it would alleviate the strain. I never imagined, even for a moment, that it would truly impact her in any significant manner. After we finished our coffee, we exchanged a few more words before I took my leave. Denny arrived later, and I didn't give the conversation much further thought. Life continued its course. I was completely unaware that my words would resonate with her, or that they could provoke an unforeseen reaction. It was merely a jest, wasn't it? Yet, I was unaware that a single casual remark would set in motion all that came after. Several months went by before anything further occurred. Yet, in retrospect, I find myself questioning whether I ought to have expressed something else. It's amusing how existence tends to toss unexpected surprises your way just when you think you've got everything figured out. That conversation with Camila didn't linger in my thoughts after it took place. Sure, I felt a bit odd about making that joke about her and her husband, but I thought she would have laughed it off like anyone else would. In the end, it was simply me being my typical self, nothing overly significant. I never imagined it would amount to anything. Sometimes, we all express thoughts that don't truly reflect our intentions, don't we? After that, she became quite silent in our exchanges. Denny and I spent some time together on a few occasions, but it was always the same old routine. Athletics, films, casual conversation. Nothing unusual to report. Camila was, as usual, her friendly and warm self, just like always. Several months have gone by. I believed perhaps the entire matter had simply slipped into oblivion, that she had moved past that discussion, much like I had. Then, on a particular night, my phone rang. It was the number belonging to Camila. To be honest, I found myself a bit taken aback. I'm just wondering, what could possibly prompt her to reach out to me at this moment, after everything that's happened? I was on the verge of dismissing it, thinking it might be a simple error, but an instinct urged me to answer. "Hey, Remy, it's Camila," she said as I picked up the phone. It was immediately apparent that something was amiss. Her voice had a distinct quality, as if she were teetering on the brink of something, you know. It lacked the familiar lively tone I was accustomed to. A wave of unease washed over me. A sense of unease lingered in the air. "Hello, Camila, how are you doing?" I remarked, attempting to maintain a relaxed demeanor, yet I felt a surge of tension right away. "I'm not quite sure how to express this, but I ended things with him," she said, and my heart truly skipped a beat. "I made the decision to part ways with my husband." For a moment, it was beyond my comprehension. The phrases lacked clarity. It felt like her words had emerged from nowhere, catching everyone off guard. The last time we conversed, the atmosphere felt tense between them, yet I never anticipated she would truly follow through with it. She has always appeared incredibly resilient, as if she would continue to persevere through the toughest challenges. Yet, there she stood, revealing that she had brought her marriage to a close. "Hold on, what? And you?" I began, yet I found myself at a loss for words. "Did you truly walk away from him?" A moment of quiet hung in the air before she began to speak once more. Her voice was firm, yet it carried an unmistakable weight of sorrow. "I was compelled to. The situation has been dire for an extended period, Remy. You were correct. I am not old enough for him. I've made an effort, but he just doesn't understand. I must exist. I desire happiness, and I believe I can no longer find it with him." A sharp twinge of remorse gripped my heart. I was just kidding around, but I didn't expect her to take it so seriously. I didn't mean to come off as uncaring. I never imagined my words would carry any significance. Yet here she stood, declaring that her marriage was overdue to something I had mentioned. It felt like a dream. "Are you certain about this?" I inquired, driven by a sense of worry rather than anything else. "This is a significant milestone, Camila. You've spent years by his side." "I'm sure," she said, gently interrupting me. "I can no longer maintain the facade that all is well. I've clung to this for far too long, but I can't bear it any longer. I am worthy of greater things than this." The words she spoke were unfiltered, genuine. The anguish in her voice was unmistakable. And yet, there was also this subtle feeling of liberation, as if she had finally shed a burden that had been pressing on her for far too long. "I comprehend." I spoke, despite being unsure of the right words to express. "So, what's your next move?" "I'm not sure," she confessed, "but it feels like I can finally breathe after years of holding my breath. I wanted to share that I needed someone to talk to, and you were there for me, Remy, you know." I was at a loss for words in that moment. I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, unsure whether to feel remorse, joy for her, or simply bewilderment. However, I was hesitant to express myself incorrectly. I had never encountered a scenario quite like this one before. "Indeed, I stand ready to support you." I finally spoke up, attempting to provide some encouragement. "If you require assistance, you know how to reach me." We exchanged a few more words, engaging in light conversation to ease the atmosphere, but once the call ended, I was left with an unsettling sense that a significant change had just occurred. I was uncertain about its meaning, yet one thing was clear to me. The tale was far from over. The journey had merely commenced. That night, I lay in bed, going over every detail in my mind. Camila had walked away from her husband, and in a twist of fate, my careless remark had set everything in motion. I was uncertain about the direction this would take, yet I could feel that the dynamics between Camila and me were on the brink of transformation, and I wasn't quite ready for it. The days that followed that phone call felt peculiar. I found myself endlessly revisiting Camila's words in my thoughts. How does one even begin to process something like that? You crack a joke about someone's relationship, and before you realize it, they're walking away from their husband. I found it quite unsettling. Honestly, I felt quite remorseful. I never intended for her to truly take it to heart, yet it seems that words can carry more significance than one might expect. After that, I ran into Denny a few times, and we spent time together as we always did. We hit the court for some basketball, enjoyed a beer afterward, and followed our usual routine. Yet, there lingered an unsettling sensation in the recesses of my thoughts, an elusive notion I couldn't fully dismiss. It was Camila. She lingered in my thoughts, an unshakable presence. What was her true state of being? Is she all right? It had only been a few days since the breakup, yet I felt an unusual urge to reach out to her. I made the choice to reach out to her. It may have appeared unusual, but following that phone call, I felt compelled to ensure everything was resolved. She had been a friend to me, and even though she was Denny's mom, she felt more like a sort of distant guide, you know. A person who consistently offered an ear, free of judgment. It was difficult to simply move on from her, especially as she faced such a significant challenge. One evening, a few days after our conversation, I decided to call her. She answered on the second ring, and as she spoke, I noticed a weariness in her tone that seemed deeper than before, yet there was an undeniable tranquility in her voice. "Hey, Remy," she remarked. "How have you been?" "Excellent, excellent. I simply wish to touch base. In light of all that has transpired. How are you managing?" I inquired, my tone carrying a weight I hadn't meant to convey. She let out a gentle sigh, and I could nearly sense the burden of her fatigue. "I'm doing fine. Just making some tweaks, you know. It's been quite a journey, but I'm navigating it one day at a time." A wave of compassion washed over me. I found it hard to fathom the depths of her experience. Parting ways with your husband after so many years, after all that you've experienced together. Yet, a recollection surfaced of her previous words, how she had expressed a sense of entrapment. It was clear why she had chosen that path. "I understand," I expressed, hoping to provide a sense of solace. "This is a significant milestone, yet if there's anyone capable of overcoming it, it's undoubtedly you." After a brief pause, she began to speak once more, her voice gentle yet unwavering. "Thank you, Remy. Your concern truly matters to me. It can feel a bit daunting, can't it? I'm contemplating the next steps." I had my doubts about what the conversation would bring, yet her willingness to share caught me off guard. It wasn't as if she was laying bare her soul, yet there was an intimacy in her words that suggested a deeper connection. It felt as though she was sharing secrets with me, not merely as Denny's friend, but as someone she held in confidence. This duality left me feeling both privileged and uneasy simultaneously. There was an inexplicable sensation lingering within me, yet it was undeniably present. "I'm certain it's quite a bit," I remarked, attempting to maintain a cheerful tone in our discussion. "But if you ever find yourself in need of a conversation partner or someone to simply spend time with and take your mind off things, I'm here for you. Honestly." She hesitated once more, and I found myself questioning whether she was contemplating it, or perhaps simply organizing her thoughts. Then, she uttered a remark that caught me completely off guard. "I would like that," she said, her voice tinged with a hint of uncertainty. "At the moment, my circle is quite small, and I find myself at a loss for words. It's comforting to engage in conversation with someone who doesn't impose any expectations. Her words lingered in the air, leaving me momentarily at a loss for how to reply. I was unaccustomed to hearing anyone, particularly someone like Camila, express something like that. I aimed to be there for her, to embody the friend she required, yet a part of me couldn't shake the curiosity about where this journey might lead. Was she merely seeking a shoulder to lean on, or was there something deeper at play? Before I had the chance to ponder it further, she pressed on. How about we meet for coffee tomorrow, just the two of us? I'm not sure, but I think I could really benefit from some company, and I'd love to have a proper catch-up. For a brief moment, I paused. It felt strange, to be out with her alone like this, particularly after all that had transpired. Yet, I found myself reluctant to abandon her in her moment of need. I sensed she was searching for connection, and perhaps this was her method of extending a hand. Thus, I consented. Absolutely, I replied, attempting to keep my tone relaxed. I'm available tomorrow afternoon, let's make it happen. We crafted our plans, and as the call concluded, that peculiar feeling from before washed over me once again. A change was in the air. Something was off, and I sensed that this gathering held more significance than a mere casual meetup. Not any longer. After ending the call, I found myself gazing at my phone for a brief moment. What was I signing up for? The following day, a sense of unease washed over me. Not in the way one might feel about a date, but rather in a peculiar, dissonant manner, as if I were on the brink of venturing into unknown realms. My friendship with Camila had spanned many years, yet this moment carried a unique weight. Given all that she had shared with me, the joke I cracked, and her subsequent phone call, it was clear this was more than just a simple coffee date. A sensation washed over me. There was an unmistakable shift in the air. I arrived at the cafe roughly 10 minutes ahead of schedule, attempting to soothe my anxious thoughts. The atmosphere was serene, a charming little local haunt exuding a warm, relaxed ambience. I took a seat by the window, seeking to divert my attention by observing the handful of individuals wandering the street. To be honest, it was beneficial. The world beyond seemed ordinary, and I craved that sense of normalcy at this moment. Moments later, Camila entered the room. She wore a relaxed outfit, consisting of a plain sweater and denim jeans. Yet, there was an intriguing quality about her that captivated me. Perhaps it was the depth of her gaze. They appeared weary, yet there was a newfound gentleness about them, a warmth that had previously escaped my notice. She caught sight of me, and I raised my hand in a gentle wave, offering her a subtle smile. "Hey, Remy," she said, taking a seat across from me. It felt strangely personal, just the two of us, together, with only coffee and our dialogue surrounding us. "Hey," I said, attempting to keep my tone casual. "How are you doing?" She let out a soft sigh, glancing at the menu briefly before locking her gaze with mine. "It's quite a bit, you see, but I'm handling it, just striving to maintain my composure." I inclined my head, attempting to convey comprehension. "Your resilience is admirable, and it's clear you're handling things with grace, despite the challenges you face." She offered a faint, tired smile. "I suppose I'm managing just fine. Just take it one step at a time, correct?" The waitress approached our table and took our orders, nothing extravagant, just a cup of coffee and a pastry for her. Camila wasn't quite feeling up to anything too intense. I request a black coffee, opting for simplicity. "So, how is Denny faring?" Once the waitress had departed, she inquired, her tone adopting a more relaxed quality. It seemed as though she was attempting to guide the discussion toward safe, well-trodden ground. It was a clever decision, given the strain that had lingered between us since the separation. I simply shrugged. "You're familiar with him. He's doing well. Just classic Denny." She offered a slight smile, giving a nod. "Indeed, that makes sense. He's a decent young man. It seems like you two share a strong bond, don't you?" "Absolutely, we spend time together." "You're familiar with the experience?" I remarked, uncertain of the direction this dialogue was taking. It felt almost too ordinary, as if we were simply conversing about life in a typical manner. Yet, a tiny fragment of my being, the one beginning to sense the change, couldn't help but question whether this was truly normal. Was she attempting to maintain a carefree atmosphere, or was there a deeper tension simmering beneath the surface? Camila inhaled deeply, then turned to me with a gaze that held a hint of gravity. "I've been reflecting on your comment, the one where you teased me about being too young for Greg." She hesitated, and I sensed a tightness in my throat. This was the moment. The matter I had been sidestepping. The reason I had felt such reluctance regarding all of this. She maintained that it wasn't merely a joke. There was a part of me that sensed the truth all along. For an extended period, I felt a deep sense of discontent, yet I found it difficult to acknowledge. "But you," she paused, then amended. "You were correct. I'm too young to be trapped in something that's no longer fulfilling." I remained still. I have an abundance of experiences yet to embrace, and I refuse to squander them. I remained in my seat, absorbing the gravity of her words as they lingered in the space between us. It wasn't merely a separation, it was an awakening. And now, here she stood before me, sharing all of this. I found myself at a loss for words. I felt powerless to change anything, and the last thing I wanted was to complicate matters further by saying something inappropriate. I simply nodded slowly, attempting to express my understanding. "I never intended to pressure you in any way," I murmured gently. "I'm really pleased to see you discovering what brings you joy. You've earned that, Camila." Her smile reached me, carrying a hint of genuine warmth this time. "Thank you, Remy. Your kindness means a lot to me. I've been so immersed in everything for such a long time that I didn't even notice how much I was restricting myself. Now, it seems I have an opportunity to begin anew. I'm uncertain of what that entails at this moment, but I'm eager to discover it." A moment lingered as we each savored a sip of her coffee. The atmosphere was serene, a certain coziness enveloping the space, yet it brimmed with unexpressed sentiments. I could feel the transformation within her, the way she began to reveal herself. To be completely honest, I felt a twinge of fear. A part of me wished to maintain a distance from it all, yet another part of me yearned to draw closer. Camila's eyes met mine after a brief pause, her look unwavering yet tinged with a hint of doubt. "I've been pondering another matter, Remy. There's something I hesitate to voice, yet I believe you might grasp it." I arched an eyebrow, my heart fluttering unexpectedly. "What is that?" She paused for a moment, then her voice fell to nearly a whisper. "I believe I'm beginning to experience something deeper than mere gratitude for you, something beyond just friendship." I stood still. The atmosphere in the room felt different, and for a brief instant, my thoughts eluded me. Struggled for air. Did she really just? The last several weeks had been a flurry of activity. What began as a light-hearted jest regarding Camila's youthful appearance in relation to her husband evolved into a complex situation, transcending the boundaries of mere friendship or casual familiarity. There was an uncertainty about it, a feeling that it had strayed from the ordinary. What's the most frustrating aspect? I found myself uncertain about returning to the way things used to be. Camila and I maintained our secrecy. The connection was unmistakable, and each time I laid eyes on her, it seemed we were drawing nearer. There were times when it felt effortless to sit in a serene cafe, discussing life and sharing laughter over the little things. Yet, there were instances when I couldn't dismiss the sensation that we were treading on a precarious edge. The burden of guilt and the shroud of secrecy began to press heavily upon my shoulders. One evening, I found myself on my couch, lost in thought about it all. I needed to confront my own truth. I had become entangled beyond my control. I couldn't act as if I was devoid of emotions for her. And I understood it went beyond mere physical attraction. It was the sensation she evoked within me. I had never experienced such a profound sense of understanding and care. She was older, undoubtedly, but that was of no consequence. She gave me a sense of significance, making me feel valued, and in response, I began to develop feelings for her. Yet, the inquiry remained, what of Denny? What is the situation with her son? He was completely unaware. He was completely unaware that his mother had departed from his father, that she had been seeking solace in my presence. How could I possibly start to convey that to him? What implications would that have for my relationship with him? On that evening, Camila reached out to me. She inquired about the possibility of meeting, and I consented without a moment's pause. I anticipated the conversation, fully aware of the challenges it would bring. We had to confront the truth of what had transpired. Upon my arrival, she was already settled in her familiar corner, the same charming cafe where our paths first crossed. She glanced up at me, offering a gentle smile, yet her eyes betrayed a sense of weariness. She had endured a great deal, and it was evident that she was grappling with this choice. Remy, she began, her voice softer than normal. I've been reflecting deeply on all aspects of life. Concerning our accomplishments. Regarding the events that have transpired between us. And I believe we should have a conversation about it. Honestly, I nodded, a tightness forming in my throat. I'm aware that we can't continue down this path. It's unjust to everyone involved, especially to Denny. He has a right to understand the reality. Camila gazed at her hands, nervously toying with the napkin laid before her. I understand, and I wish to be truthful with him. Remy. Yet, I feel a sense of fear. I'm unsure of how to express this, and the thought of losing him is daunting. He's my son, and I fear he might resent me for this. My heart was heavy with longing for her. I recognized her apprehension, yet I was aware that we couldn't remain in the shadows indefinitely. Camila, you don't need to face this by yourself. I will stand by your side when you share the news with him. Let's work through this collaboratively. She gazed at me, her eyes brimming with appreciation. Thanks, Remy. Your presence is truly invaluable to me. We lingered in the stillness for a few moments, allowing the quiet to envelop us. The gravity of the situation bore down on us, palpable and undeniable. It was clear that a transformation had taken place. Our relationship can never return to its previous state. Yet, we were acutely aware that we could no longer dismiss our emotions. We were compelled to confront the repercussions of our choices. At last, we rose to our feet, and I accompanied her to her vehicle. Our words were few. It wasn't necessary. The choice was finalized. We had resolved to reveal the truth to Denny, regardless of the challenges it might bring. The following day, we gathered with Denny. The expression on his face when we revealed everything will stay with me forever. He was clearly taken aback. In pain, lost, filled with rage. However, after an extended and intense discussion, he finally grasped the situation. He wasn't fond of it, yet he grasped the situation. He understood that his mother was worthy of happiness, and while it was difficult to come to terms with, he recognized that occasionally, life unfolds in ways that defy our expectations. We maintained a subtle approach to our relationship following that. The journey was challenging, and there were still instances of discomfort lingering in the air between us. Gradually, a sense of ease began to settle in. Denny seems to be beginning to accept everything as well. He didn't express much enthusiasm, yet he held us in regard. Truly, that was everything we could hope for. Camila and I continued to press on. The journey was challenging, yet we faced it side by side. Despite the lingering uncertainty, I found myself indifferent to it all. Being with her was everything that counted. We discovered our unique cadence, harmonizing the echoes of history with the pulse of today. We still had much to unravel, yet I found myself unafraid of what lay ahead. After what felt like an eternity, I sensed that everything was finally beginning to align perfectly. We had faced numerous challenges, yet we emerged from them more resilient, united in our journey. Ultimately, that was the only thing that truly counted.